All right, you're a man of many holds, many nicknames. Y2J, Corazon de Leon, the Ocho, the Ayatollah of rock and rolla. Chris Jericho, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to hang out with me.
Absolutely. I came right from kickboxing right to see you. So true professional, wet hair and everything. There you go.
Yeah, you're all warmed up and ready. You've been fighting all morning. I'm just sitting here in front of the camera.
I'm in a vicious mood, so you better watch it.
I'm ready, dude. I'm ready. You know how I know you're the GOAT, Chris? I was there in San Diego when you beat The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin on the same night to become the first ever undisputed champion. I was rooting for you too.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, something that happened 20 years ago still resonates, which is cool. But that hardly pushed me into GOAT status, if that's what I am. I would never say that, but it was definitely one of many accolades that led me to where we are today with AEW. And, that's part of the longevity and the diversity of Chris Jericho's career, for sure.
Yeah, it was cool for me seeing it. Best thing I've seen live in wrestling. I've been to a lot of shows. Let's get right into AEW, though, because you're coming to San Francisco. Obviously, you guys have built this thing from the ground up. That has to be incredibly rewarding. But to take over a new market, a new territory, what does that mean to you?
That's one of the things about our company is that we started only just over 3 years ago. And about 3 months into our existence, we got hit with a worldwide lockdown. So we wrestled for about 9 months in Jacksonville, in front of no people. And then there was a little amount of people. And then we finally started going back on the road only about year and a half ago, maybe almost 2 years ago. So there's so many cities and so many markets that we've never been to, especially on the West Coast. I mean, we were just in Seattle for the first time this year, Portland for the first time. We were only in LA for the second time, which is crazy when you think about how big of a city LA is. So for us to come to San Francisco with its great wrestling tradition, great wrestling history, for not just one show, not just two shows, but three shows, shows that it's been a long time coming for us to come to the Bay Area and for people to want to see us. So it's going to be a great week and kind of cap it off with a show in Sacramento. So we basically have 4 shows up in the Northern California area over the next 10 days. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're gonna have Dynamite, you're gonna have Rampage, Cow Palace, a historical venue for wrestling, Chase Center, a brand new but spectacular arena, the home of the Warriors. I mean, as a wrestling historian, what does this market mean to you? I mean, guys like Pat Patterson made their hay out here, the late great Pat Patterson, someone I know you knew very well. What does this market mean? It is a historical hotbed of wrestling.
Well, I'm not really much of a wrestling historian, but obviously I'm very close to Pat Patterson and know his history in the Bay Area. And I know the history of wrestling in the Bay Area. As a matter of fact, one of my first, road trips in wrestling was to go to Hayward, California in 1992 to wrestle for Woody Farmer. And it was called Bay Area Wrestling, which is, it's pretty funny because Bailey was there and Aaron Solo from AEW was there kind of in the later years. So they kind of have a real connection with that area too. So, and the same as me. And I've had a lot of great moments in San Francisco. Probably my favorite all-time match in WCW was against Juventud Guerrera mask match, I guess, mask versus title in the Cow Palace in February of '98. Still remember how great that was to be there. Had a lot of great moments in Sacramento and San Jose as well. So like I said, there is a great history and a great tradition, not just for wrestling for many, many years, for 50, 60 years, but for Chris Jericho as well. So anytime we go to a new market with AEW, I take great pride in that because I've been in AEW since day one. And it's always great to see kind of the fans' reactions because we were just in Phoenix for the first time a couple days ago on Wednesday. Crowd was off the charts, amazing, loud, huge. And we expect the same thing in San Francisco. Now it's a little bit different because we have 3 shows over the course of the week in the same market. But like you said, 2 in the Cow Palace, the famous Cow Palace. I mean, man, when you go in there, you realize why it's called the Cow Palace. I mean, it's a livestock building, but it's always cool because of the great moments that, Pat Patterson and Roy Shire had up there. The Beatles played the Cow Palace. But I think the really cool thing is to tag it all off at the Chase Center to show kind of the new venue in San Francisco, which I've never been to before. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So it's just going to be a great week, like I said, for AEW, for our fans, and for wrestling in general.
Yeah, you can't do 3 shows in the same market if the people don't want to see it. I mean, there's got to be the demand, and clearly the demand is there, which is spectacular. I think you're selling yourself short as a wrestling historian, Chris, because I've listened to a lot of your podcasts. You know more about the history of wrestling than most people on this planet Earth. I can guarantee you that from listening to your show, though.
Well, I think just because I've been wrestling for so long, for 32 years, I'm kind of the last guy from that generation that's still kind of, working at a high level in this generation. I also, when I do my shows, I surround myself with actual historians, which is great. And I think I've learned a lot too from having Talk is Jericho, my podcast. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy doing it. I love having Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez. I just had Dan Lambert on my cruise with all of his championship titles that he has and all the stories behind them. So obviously, because I am so ensconced in wrestling, I know a lot about the history, but the nuances of, like, let's say San Francisco wrestling and the Roy Shire battle royals in the 60s and Pat Patterson and the Crusher and the Samoans. Like, I don't know every detail about that, but I always enjoy hearing the stories when I do.
Yeah, you know the names. That helps.
I know the names.
Let's get back to AEW. We've talked about building it, and I think that we alluded to it, but I mean, here in the Bay Area, there was a time when I was part of launching 2 HD networks from the ground up. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was one of the most rewarding. I know you're not like the owner, you're not Tony Khan, but you've been there from the jump. I even remember listening to you talk to these guys like the Bucks and Cody on your podcast, Kenny Omega, the guys that ended up being like EVPs. And you've been there from the start, building this thing from the ground up. What has that challenge meant to you? How hard has it been? How rewarding has it been to really dedicate yourself to something like that?
Well, I mean, it's of course it's been hard, but in the best possible of ways. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come to AEW and be a part of AEW right from the start, right from the ground up, because I thought we have a chance to basically change the course of wrestling history if this is a success. If it's not a success, well, then we go back to square one. But I think if you go back to the beginning of AEW, the face of the company for the first 3 or 4 months was Chris Jericho. And I think that's one of the reasons why we were able to get some legitimacy, get such a great TV deal. But I can only, I'm not Atlas. I can't hold the world on my shoulder, nor would I ever want to. I knew right from the start that I had to build as many new stars in a short period of time as I could. And if you look at who I worked the first 3 months, it's Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, Cody Rhodes. I started the Inner Circle with Hager and Santana and Ortiz and Sammy Guevara. No one ever heard of that guy before. Darby Allin, same. Scorpio Sky, Jungle Boy. Like, we really knew we had a chance to do something, but you got to strike quickly. And I think over the last 3 years, if you look at our roster now, we've got a great combination. We've got a championship roster. Yeah. And we've got great veterans that can lead the way. We've got guys in their prime like Danielson and Moxley and Kenny and the Bucks and those guys. We've got a great crop of new guys that are really striking hard, like MJF, Hangman. And then we've got a great kind of rookie aspect to it from the Dante Martins and Darius Martins and Private Party and, Jungle Boys and Darby's and those guys. Everybody's growing together. And I think that's one of the reasons why you can never count AEW out. We are the cool company, and wrestling goes in cycles, and then we go down a bit. And then last week, guess where we were last week on Wednesday? Number one on Wednesday night in cable. You can't get any higher than number one, and you can spin it any way you want, and haters will. But for me, number one is number one. And even when the NBA was on, we're top 5. That's something I don't think anybody expected that from the start. And that's because we've done a great job of putting on an awesome show, building as many new stars as we can in a short period of time, with the women too, with Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter and Sheeta, and Soraya's with us, and Tony Storm. So there's a great roster of all levels of amazing professionals in AEW.
Yeah, and one of the people you work with, MJF, he's the champ now. He's going to be taking on the American Dragon. You're taking on Ricky Starks, another young guy who you're bringing up in a sense. But how do you balance the mentorship role from the fact that you're just going to have to smack him down in the ring on Sunday?
Well, I mean, that's one of the things, when we started the Ricky Starks story back at the end of December, the idea was always make it all the way to Revolution. And, I like to tell long-term stories, and it makes me laugh sometimes when people bag on me for that. It's like, well, what's the rush? You want to just do one, if it's too short of a story, people complain. If it's too long of a story, people complain. And to me, what is too long? As long as there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, it's like, well, the Titanic's too long. Saving Private Ryan's too long. Well, both those movies are two of the greatest of all time that won multiple awards. They're 3 hours long, and you got to invest in it. If you want to go, fuck around on your phone, or if you want to go, to Chipotle in an hour, don't watch those movies. I think it's the same with the Chris Jericho storyline. So yeah, Ricky Starks is a guy that I thought, wow, he could really use some long-term storyline stuff, working on his character, figuring out who he is as a performer. And wrestling wise, he's got it, but he has a real connection with the crowd that I wanted to really expand upon. So, in the ring's a different story. Outside of the ring, once again, Ricky Starks, let's build this guy. Let's build him into a bigger star. And not just with this program, let me show him some tricks. And more importantly, it's like you can lead the horse to water, but the horse has to drink it. And once the horse drinks it, he knows, okay, I can go to this pond and I can use these tricks. And I think Ricky's learning that. We had a great segment on Wednesday. I think that he really learned a lot. And I think it's been a great experience and a great story. And it's going to be a great conclusion, or is it, at Revolution on Sunday?
Yeah, I've seen him trading barbs with you on the mic. That's not easy to do. You're one of the best of all time at that. I know he's traded barbs with MJF. So, I mean, he's learning. It's one thing to be able to speak on a microphone. It's another thing to wrestle and to put the whole package together. That's entirely next level. So it's pretty cool that you're able to impart that wisdom on him.
Well, I mean, once again, I can't just wave a magic wand and make everything work. But I think at this point in the game, I just at 52 years old, who would have thought I would still be doing this? But we just had the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards come out and I was top 5 wrestler of the year. So I think, at this stage of the game, that's pretty good. So I'll still continue to wrestle as long as I feel that I'm wrestling at the highest of levels. But my number one job is to help and grow the younger guys. And that doesn't necessarily mean just losing to them. You could win every night or lose every night. What does that really mean? It's the story and the lessons and the whole psychology that you're putting together. And it's fun for me too. It's one of the reasons why I'm still doing it, because I'm invigorated with the passion of wrestling from getting to work with all of these new guys that I've never really done anything with before.
Yeah, you're 8-time champ. That's why you're called the Ocho, I believe. But it's also a cool nickname. But you're going to be out here in the Bay Area for a while. I know you have a podcast. I listen to it all the time. I mentioned it before, Plug and Talk is Jericho for you. But you do a lot of haunted stories on that too, and visit. I even heard you visit some of these places in the Bay. We got Alcatraz, the jail on an island. We've got the Winchester Mystery House, a house where the owner built all these crazy tunnels and segues and stairs to fool ghosts. We have the USS Hornet, a retired aircraft carrier that's haunted. If you had a day to spend, where would you spend it on a haunted adventure of those 3 options?
Well, you just gave me an idea. I think doing a podcast about Alcatraz in Alcatraz would be a pretty great idea. So now you have to help me figure out a way to make that happen, Casey. We got to find out somebody that works there, get me in there to do it.
Not only could I make that happen, I will join you, sir. I've been there at night. It's freaky. Like, they light this hospital wing with a lantern, and it's just creepy as all get out. It's where they had like the Birdman and all these.
I'd be all into it. Let's talk off air and make it work. Thursday, next Thursday. Man. Let's do it.
Yes, I've studied Alcatraz. I've been there at night. It's freaky. It's freaky. Here's a random question for you. And it's one that's one of my favorite things, but you sing your own song and it's spectacular. The whole crowd sings along with it. If you had to look back at all the wrestling themes, all the wrestling entrance music as performed by the person that is actually wrestling, which is the greatest of all time? And you can go with your own, but for me, one of my favorites of all time, for example, would be Shawn Michaels in the Sexy Boy song. So where do you put that list?
Is there any other ones? I think Cena.
The Cena's a great one. Yeah.
Shawn sang his own. Who else? Is there any other ones? I don't even know. Judas, obviously.
I'm trying to think.
So I would go with those 3 probably, because I don't know if I'm sure there's others where the guy sang his own song, but those 3 are all pretty good. Sexy Boy wins in the wrestling world. Judas wins in the real world because we got a gold record with it. So I'll take that one. They play it at, hockey games and football games. Actually, I just got sent a clip from a soccer game in England a few weeks ago where they were singing Judas during kind of the halftime. So it's been pretty cool to see the growth of that song, not just within wrestling, but kind of in mainstream pop culture as well.
Yeah, it's really a song that you can sing along with. I'm not sure many people were singing along with Shawn Michaels' theme, but it was just hilarious.
I think they were in the arena. In the arena, I think they were, maybe. I
And
was.
Cena's was a rap song, so it's almost kind of cheating. Like Randy Savage had a rap album. Hulk Hogan even had a musical album. So I mean, I think you've done it at a level that far exceeds those.
Yeah, I mean, I think our competitors are more Shinedown and Guns N' Roses and 3 Days Grace and Iron Maiden than Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, and John Cena.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Absolutely. Chris, thank you so much for joining me, man. It's been a great time talking to you. I'll catch you on the pod. I'll catch you at the Cow Palace, Rampage, maybe even Alcatraz. We'll get that working. But it was really nice spending a few minutes with you, man.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. Like I said, we're really excited to come to the Bay Area. It's been a long time coming. And I think between Dynamite and Rampage and the pay-per-view, I think everyone's gonna be very excited about the level of amazingness that AEW brings, not just to pro wrestling, but to the cities that we're in. So we're really excited about it. And I'm looking forward to it, man.